Welcome back to Business Week on Arise News. For too long, the conversation around women and money has centered on budgeting, saving, and cutting back. But real financial power isn't about just making ends meet. It's about building wealth, creating financial security, and unlocking true economic independence. Now, today, we're going to be talking about women, wealth, and investing from paycheck to prosperity. And I'm joined by two incredible female experts in this space. First, I have Grace Ofure, a real estate investment expert and wealth strategist who is CEO of Lifecard Group. And of course, a regular on the show, Oladele, founder of the Money Wit Club and a personal finance expert. Great to have you both on the show, ladies. Welcome. Welcome. Of course, it's International Women's Day. And there's a lot of that has happened in the past week and past few months, but we want to focus on the finance and wealth side. And I'll start with you, Ola. You know, there is a wealth gap for women. Women hold a significant amount of purchasing power. Why is there a wealth gap for women? Why, after years and months of talking about financial security and holding those seminars and webinars, we haven't seen a significant movement in the needle?
I think the fundamental thing is a lack of knowledge or a lack of awareness. Lots of women have money passing through their hands, but what we see is it goes into places they can't account for. You'll probably see a man make the same amount of money, but find ways to double it up. But once the money enters into the woman's hand, she's finding ways to settle obligations. So that awareness of the impact of what they are, of those little changes or little actions on their future wealth is something that is lacking for a lot of women. Now, it's a challenge because there's a lot of pressure on women to deliver or emotional pull on women to help, to support Black taxes. Those things actually trickle into future financial wealth more than we realize.
Okay. Do you agree, Grace, that
because
that gap exists?
Yeah, because if you look at the norm, women are very emotional, and sometimes they allow their emotion play on them. And like I just told somebody recently, two people seated on the floor, nobody can help. So if you're a woman and you're still sitting on the floor, you need to first of all get up to help another. So you can't keep helping on the floor. So you try and get up. It's just a mindset thing. So women need to now begin to think of the future and seeing that if they're empowered, if they have more, they can help more than just helping few people on the floor. So
now, a lot of people, you're in real estate, and you've been an investment expert in that space for many decades. Now, real estate, for instance, has been seen as a store of value and as a way of building wealth. What trends are you seeing lately with how women are approaching investing in real estate?
Okay, so for those that have opened up their mind to education, like she said, education plays a very big role when it comes to even investing. You see, when I got into real estate, I came from just starting from very little. But what I discovered that caused my success to be this much is because I opened my mind to education. I was ready to learn and flip the normal. I made up my mind that I don't want to be normal, because now women truly are embracing that. A lot of women are coming up to have mentors, mentees. I'm mentoring a lot of women to begin to take both steps. But there's still a problem. And the problem is women feel that ownership is supposed to be for men.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know a few women in my circle.
No, because that's like a 10% of
Okay.
the 100%. So let's look at the numbers. So what we are really pushing is people coming to know that women can own anything they want to own in spaces in real estate. And the fear of the amount, like real estate is expensive. And women just think that real estate is expensive, I don't think I should even own anything. You could actually think of other ways like strategy, co-ownership. I started my journey with co-ownership. And so women should be open more to see that it's possible. Women are owning globally. Like recently, it was a woman that led me to Dubai. Really. I was in a meeting in Dubai like 5 years ago, and she had some money and said, Grace, I can't give this money to somebody else. You help me to do the... And I said, I don't know anything about this market, because once I don't know anything, I'm not interested. But, you know, because I saw 2-3 people, their interest, I had to go train, get trainings there, spend 2 years learning the market, the trends. And when I was ready, most of my clients are women. But then, a lot of women are still afraid, like, do I really need to own these things? Some of them are so afraid because of even their husbands. Like, I don't know how you will feel.
Okay, we'll get to some of the societal and cultural issues, but Ola, this brings me to something that I think has been an observed trend, and the sense in which women, in terms of investing and sort of growing wealth, will tend to prefer security over high returns. So this sense that I have to just preserve my capital and preserve what I already have, rather than seek to grow it exponentially, because therein lies risk. And of course, the old age saying that women are more risk averse. Do you also see that? And which types of financial products, is that something you're seeing in the approach to real estate investing as well?
I totally see this. In my investment community, I realized there are more women. Women will come for education, but more men do deals.
Right.
So men will take on the deals. But what I always say, and in any session that I have, there's an analogy I always use that sort of opens it up for people. Imagine you have an apple, there is seeds in the apple. If you plant that seed and give it time, it will grow into a tree. The tree will have apples that you can plant, you can harvest and plant some more, right? See that apple as the fruit of your labor. The part you save is the seed. If you leave that seed lying idle, it will dry up and it'll be useless to everyone.
Right.
The only value of that seed is in planting. And it takes time, it takes effort, but when you get to that point, right, you would have the tree and then you can have more trees. Now, when you put it in that light, you realize, okay, I don't have much money, there's a little. What can I put it in? How much time do I have? I am not in a hurry. Once you begin to think from that angle, then it gives you breadth or a liberty to think broadly and think more objectively and not try to chase shadows, because it's a process. And I think women tend to relate with that as against, just put your money here and you will get 20% or 20x on it. And they're like, what if it goes?
Yeah, that's the first question we typically
what
ask,
if it goes? But if you think from a planting perspective and then you consider the soil, consider the environment, consider, so by soil I would say the investment opportunity and the environment, the economic environment, you just realize there's some things that make for a good investment. When you begin to present it in that light, then women now slow down and say, okay, let's talk. What are the things? Because fundamentally, not every investment that is profitable is that risky, especially in Nigeria.
Okay, can you tell us? I mean, give us insights now. We all want to know.
Government securities are 20%.
Okay, so if I had a pool of money today, and I want to ask both of you, because I'm sure you also have a diversified portfolio. Yeah. Real estate, government securities. Let's even just say, hypothetically, I have 1 million naira, and I want to do, of course, this goes back to the real estate question, because we're talking big ticket sizes. Exactly. So,
Okay, so this is the way I would a lot of times people talk about government security, 20%, which is good. But the truth is, if you don't think of wealth creation and you think of 20%, you're still going to end up a poor woman. Let's do the math. You keep on 1 million or 2 million every year to get 20%, and you're already 40, and you can do that in the next 20 years. How much would
so there's
that
an
money
age factor
be?
as well.
It's an age factor. So I would think, from my own perspective, that is there other businesses, that's the way I think, that can give me more return, but my money is not enough. So what is the strategy of using my lithium money to make the amount you would have made if you had bigger money?
So you're going to tell us that strategy. But Ola wanted to say, before you tell us the strategy, Ola wanted to say something. I want to say
that because there are two sides to it. There's a knowledge part and there's the execution. Now, there's something called compounding that people do not recognize when it comes to the government security and the 20% you're referring to. If you actually take that 1 million and you get 20% annually for the next 10 years, for context, you will have your 1 million, you will get 200K every year for 10 years, so you get 2 million. So at the end of 10 years, you have your 3 million. Now, expand it to how much you invest, right? But that 20% that you get, 200K, if you invest it with the 1 million, by the end of the 10 years, you would probably be around 6-7 million for doing nothing.
Okay.
That's such that I do recommend that there's a space for dividing things.
So you spread.
In one
so this
asset.
goes to the whole diversified portfolio.
Exactly.
But I even want to understand now. Let's come back to real estate. I have 1 million naira. I have a real interest in building my real estate wealth. Where do I even start from?
You first of all go and build a real estate club.
A company?
Club.
No,
Club.
an investment club.
Club.
Okay.
Investment club.
So I have
right.
some investment club where I teach on how to start an investment. Because you know my story. I started from an investment club, yeah? So even if I don't do clubs at that level, I do clubs at higher level now. I have people that are mentored to start to do clubs at the level of 1 million. So what I always preach is a 80-20 rule. I put 80% on investments that I know they are high return, maybe real estate. Then I put 20% on investment that are 20% compounding. Because if you give me 6 million in 6 years, remove the inflation, you have not given me anything.
Okay, yeah.
So that is also important because that is actually helping me to even have the mindset of at least even having an income. Because there are some people that actually spend that 1 million on their hair because they don't want to just even take the 20%, which is
because they don't even have a sense of that time
you.
horizon.
So
It's kind of
starting
that-
from there, there's always a starting point.
Absolutely.
But I'm only saying, don't stay there.
Okay.
Begin to now think. We're talking about wealth here. We're not talking about
Just having money. Yeah.
So when you want to be wealthy, you have to be open for more opportunities. Like now I can see that my money can even grow. Is a starting point.
Right.
Then
Yeah.
you now think of other opportunities and they are just around
Yeah.
you everywhere.
So I want us, we'll come to, by the time we end the show, I want you to actually give me a basket of assets in this market. But one of the things that has been clear is that in our current climate, because of inflation, there's so many economic trends that have created this sense of fear. I feel like women have moved further back into that capital preservation mode. This small one that I even have,
Let me hold
you want me
it.
to go and risk it or starting an investment club? How do I even know the people? How do women get around just understanding how macro dynamics impact their investment decisions? What sort of tools or strategies do you have around? I'll start with
It
Ola.
boils down to education and being open to education and being aware that you don't know it. And understanding the importance of it in your financial journey. And let's even pull back to, it boils down to having goals, right? I think that's even where you start from. So if you actually have goals that are beyond you, then you can actually say, oh, I know that I do not have what it takes to get to these goals. What gaps or what do I need to fill? I think it starts with that. And I put it to you that if you ask most women their goals, it has something to do with their children finishing school. Do you get? But if you ask a guy, it has something to do with numbers.
Right.
Right?
Fair enough.
But such that once you have that my child finishing school type thing and then you add praying for scholarship to it, it sort of caps your drive. It caps your drive. So I think the first thing, let's even start setting goals that are beyond you. Understanding that if you have a child at 30, by 50, the child is pretty much on their own. So what's your life after that?
Yeah.
Right? So let's start with defining goals that are about you. So when we get those goals, then you'll be aware that I need to do more than what I have, right? I need to know more. Now, once you find a woman that is on an education drive and is ready to take action, she is a warrior.
Right. Okay. I love that. That's really inspiring. So looking at all of this, there are pitfalls to avoid, right? And I think what I hear from what you're both saying, you need to take a long-term view of where you're going. So some of the common pitfalls you've seen when it comes to women and investing, what are some of the things you've seen when things have gone wrong?
Yeah, so they just draw back and say never again. I normally tell people that if you were beaten here, it means that you should go again and fight. And I also see some things about women. I want to mention it here. They tend to use a 500,000 naira to invest and use the 500,000 naira to educate themselves when it comes to financial wealth, financial knowledge.
Education.
I don't see how your 500,000 naira will ever make you wealthy. I would rather put down that 500,000 naira to know what I don't know. Because when you want to be wealthy, you have to also be valuable to attract the wealth. So let me say that. Let me say that again.
Yeah.
You earn 2 naira, or let's say you earn 50 million naira, and that's all you earn. You have your expenses, you have your budget, and you can invest like 30%. If you learn how to create money, you will earn more than that. Not necessarily leaving your job. You are not the highest paid person in your job. Are you? No.
So creating money by monetizing your skills,
Thank you. So that was why I got to a point, I said, no, let's now start creating Wealth Creation Academy. So that's when I opened a Wealth Creation Academy. And it blew my mind on how people are just clueless. On how, there was a lady I took on that class. She's even the corporate. Her banking goal, hear this, her banking goal, she meets her banking 50% goal in 7%. She meets it in 17 days. Yeah. Just by understanding what she said.
Yeah.
You could be more. How she got it done in 17 days, I took her on what I call the 10% challenge. 4 days marathon of being an high effective human being. Because if you're not if you're not effective, so it has to do with women just look and say, I can't do this. Huh? You cannot be wealthy if you are not doing a lot to yourself by creating value.
I think I get that, and this is why we titled this discussion From Paycheck to Prosperity, because you have to come to a point where you're no longer content with just collecting the salary monthly, and and I guess in terms of your experience from the women you've trained and the women you've helped, and you've seen their journey evolve, is there a particular type of drive or characteristic that you need in order to achieve your wealth?
She said discipline.
Discipline.
I think discipline, taking out emotions from the conversation. That's what I think is the most important thing. But before you get to that point of discipline, I think your why. When you wake up, when they say when you wake up is your morning, right? You see, for a lot of women, when they wake up, they now, the intelligence they got from their medical degree, their engineering degree, normally they keep it aside when it comes to money, and then they make the silliest decisions. But once they wake up, the smartness that comes from the engineering or the business or the whatever just flows through into their money decisions, and they are on a roll. Taking action, asking questions, engaging, insisting, pushing through. Recognizing that life in itself is all about ups and downs, right? Such that if there is a down in an investment, it doesn't mean
it's the end.
It's the end, because that's not how life is. Yeah. But that naivety of, I did one investment, it didn't work out, therefore that's the end.
Yeah, I see
it doesn't add up if you come from that perspective. So I would say that waking up is key, and then just saying, okay, this is where I'm going to. When I have one-on-one sessions, one of the things we decide on in the end is, okay, I have this particular goal. What do I need to put aside for this?
To achieve it.
Right? What is my strategy? Now, if you close out emotions and you are on this end of a road and you keep going in this direction, you will get there eventually.
Yeah. Okay, so, we're going to wrap up soon. I think we have just about 4 to 5 minutes left. But two things I wanted to touch on. I wanted you to tackle the issue of the economy as a whole, women in the economy, because all three of us are probably at a similar stage economically, maybe some more than others, but there are a lot of women who are not even, they're at the bottom of the pyramid. What do you say to those women? But Grace, I want you to touch very briefly on the cultural elements that impact how women make decisions, very briefly, and then I'll come to you.
Okay, so because we grew up to hear so many things from our parents, and just women should just be small, be in the kitchen, don't do too much. So it has really affected our mindset. Women need to now begin to have a mindset shift, knowing that there's so much responsibility that we have, even culturally, to help others. We need to begin to see that we need to impact lives. You can't impact people in poverty. You can't. So, like she said, if my pain point is trying to impact more people, that should be my why. One of the reasons why I think I have grown this much wealth is helping people.
Right.
And so it makes me wake up every morning. It makes me have the right support system. Because another thing that is with us, I've been married for 21 years, very married, with 3 lovely kids, doing very well. So it means that I've been able to put almost everything together. So I'm open for the best support system. I don't know it all. So if I want to learn wealth creation, I want to learn it from somebody that doesn't have money. If I want to do investment, I want to do it somebody that has never invested.
Right.
So women sometimes are very emotional. She's my friend. So I want to ask her question. What does she know?
Okay.
Yeah, what does she know?
Thank you. Very well said. So, Ola, I want to come to you on the question about the broader net of women in the economy. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I always like to tell people is that the economy will always do its thing, right? That's the nature of the economy. In every society, not just Nigeria, there are people that are not doing well. It's not a Nigerian thing, except for countries where there is some strong social benefit, such that you need to, as an individual, get up. That's the first thing. Now, what can you do? The first step in the journey is, how do you make more money? the way you make more money is by exchanging value or skill. So how do you increase that value or skill so you can demand more?
No matter where you are on the economic ladder.
No matter, even
no matter
the
where
woman
you are.
that
No
that
matter
is
where you
just
are.
there.
So how do you start with making more money? Now, once you start making money, the fact is, that whole Apple analogy, there is a way that you must pull out something that would speak for you in the future. Understand that an apple tree takes like 5 to 7 years for it to go through the whole process and for you to have the fruits. So it takes time. So start your journey. But the first thing I think is most important is for you to wake up and say that, see, nobody is really going to come and help anyone. There are very few people that money was handed over to. Anybody you see that is doing well fought battles to get there.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, this is so well said. I was going to ask you to give me my wealth strategy for this year in terms of, well, investing strategy on which assets, but I know real estate always has to be there, and of course government securities, but I have to look at high yielding assets as well, even if it means taking a bit more risk.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Thank you so much. I wish we could have continued this conversation. Grace, always lovely speaking to you. Grace Ofure, CEO of Lifecard Group, and of course Oladele, regular founder of the Money Wit Club. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you. Well, that's all we have time for on Business Week. I'm Rola Keaki. Let's continue the conversation on X and do have a lovely rest of the weekend.